You're listening to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Did you know that you could build a tax-free pool of wealth that's liquid and accessible all your life while building your retirement nest egg? Gain full control of your financial future and stop relying on the government and banks. The wealthy have already discovered this wealth-building secret. Now it's your turn to get financially secure without following the conventional wisdom that keeps you in debt to banks. Now here's your host, Valerie LaRocque.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. Today, I wanted to go over one of my favorite stories on inflation. And the reason it's one of my favorite stories is because it really explains it very well in an easy to understand way. And I think helps us to see how the same thing or something similar is happening here in America and around the world. So this story is a part of our history, but I am getting it from a book called How Privatized Banking Really Works. This book was written by Carlos Lara and Robert Murphy. It's an excellent book. You should pick it up. And these two guys were both very close with Nelson Nash, the author of Becoming Your Own Banker, and were a part of the beginning of the Nelson Nash Institute, which trains the practitioners for IBC. So I'm going to start off this story with a quote from John Adams, just as they do in the book. It's a famous quote. He said, "All the perplexities, confusion, and distress in America arise from the downright ignorance of the nature of coin, credit, and circulation." Simply that we just don't understand how all of that works. And it's not taught in school. It's not really taught anywhere. I don't think the banks and the government really care for us to have a very clear understanding of how it all works. And this statement was actually made in 1829, so a while ago, quite a while ago. So this story is a story of the great Roman Empire and talking about Caesar. So it's about Caesar and how he ran his army and the things that he did while on the throne. So he had actually a very large army. Imagine tens of thousands of soldiers, all with the best weaponry, ready for Caesar's next command. And so how did Caesar pay for all of these soldiers? Well, actually, the army helped to acquire the funds needed to pay themselves because they were out there conquering other territories and plundering and bringing that back to Caesar. And also there were some very high taxes that they called tribute back then. So the Caesar was using the army to collect and bring in wealth and valuable things from the territories that they were conquering. So now Caesar has this very large army that he needs to pay, and he wants to pay them because he likes all the plunder and wealth that they bring in for him. However, unfortunately, even though he had all this wealth coming in all the time, he still did not seem to have enough to pay his army. And so what was he going to do? He did know that taxing the people too much could cause a revolt, so he didn't want to go that route. So he came up with an idea. And he decided, well, I know what I'll do. I will just clip all the edges of the gold coins and then melt them down, those clippings, and make more new gold coins. And so that's what he did. His people, his servants, clipped down the edges of the gold. They melted it down. They created new coins, and then they paid the army. Now, if we think about it, you can tell he tampered with the money. He made it completely different. It's not as heavy. The gold is not as heavy. He made the money lighter. In addition, he has increased the money supply because he'd melted it down and added more than what was there. And so he did this, and then these soldiers went out into the market to go purchase their daily goods, what they need for their family. And the people that they were purchasing those goods from in the marketplace realized, wait a minute, this is not the same as the other gold coins. I can tell it's got less gold. It's not weighted the same. And so instead of charging one gold coin for whatever it was that they were selling, they had to raise the price. They had to raise the price of 2 gold coins because they said, well, that's not the same amount and we don't trust it. And so we're going to have to raise the price so that we have the same amount we had before or it's going to be maybe slightly more, but they didn't want to lose out by having a lesser amount of gold. They didn't want to lose out and receive less money for whatever it was they were selling. Maybe they're selling fish or bread. They didn't want to receive less than the price. And so they knew that that coin was different than what they normally have, what they had in their pocket, that the gold content was lower. So they had to ask for 2 coins instead of 1. Well, the clipping of the coins in the story does not end there. Caesar, again, had his army go out, bring in all the plunder and things they conquered from other lands. And then it became time again to pay the army. And he didn't have enough money yet again. Even though they clipped coins and melted them down and he inflated the money supply, he still didn't have enough money. And so again, he went to clip the coins to melt it down and make even more money again. But he realized that the people had realized what was going on and they put a mark on the money so that they could not clip the coins again. They notched the edges so that it was obvious when the coins would be newly clipped so that they could see it and not be fooled again and receive less than what they were selling their goods and services for. So Caesar, who was not able to clip the coins, decided, aha, I know what I'll do. I will add another metal so we can melt down all the coins. I'll add another metal and we'll create more coins again. And so that's exactly what he did. He melted down the coins, added another metal, created more money, inflated the money supply again, and paid his army. Caesar actually continued to do this until there was less than 1% gold in each coin, and the Roman money became completely worthless. So when that happened, then the Roman authorities, they enacted price controls. But with the price controls, merchants were unable to raise the prices that were going along with their increased costs. So they were paying increased costs. Their costs were going up, but they were unable to raise prices on the products. So the merchants ended up going out of business. And the population, with all the skyrocketing prices, could no longer obtain the things they needed for everyday life. These people ended up fleeing off to the countryside and trying to live off the land. So what actually caused the Roman Empire to fall? It was debasing the monetary unit. And that information, too, was taken from Ludwig von Mises, who wrote the book Human Action. So as the authors of this book put it, can you see the significance of this piece of history? When the value of money is deliberately diluted, you need more of it to buy what you need. Prices necessarily will rise everywhere. And that is certainly and unfortunately aligned with what is happening today. Also, unfortunately, it's happening all over the world. So it's not just here in America. So I just feel like this story really puts it in perspective so you can see, what does this mean when we're talking about inflating the money supply? They're printing dollars. How does that really affect things? I just feel like this story really paints the picture so you can see and feel how it would affect prices that you're paying at the store. Well, I hope you found that story interesting and just remember it when you're at the store buying things. Why is my price so expensive? Well, the government is inflating my money supply and I really wish they would stop. And keep in mind too that banks are a part of that because they are inflating the money supply by loaning out more than they actually have in reserve. That's why the infinite banking concept helps in this bigger picture as well, because it helps to take that money out of circulation with the banks if you're putting it and storing it with insurance companies who are not fractional reserve banking and inflating the money supply. It's going to help the country overall. Well, if you would like to connect, if you would like to partner with me and for me to help you put a plan together for you and your family, I would love to connect with you. You can reach me at Valerie@alphaomegawealth.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I will talk again next week. I hope you all take care.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.